Well, it appears that there is a new bull on Wall Street and a new favorite asset as Bitcoin is being bought up by Wall Street, 12.5x more Bitcoin being bought up per day than the network can produce. This is insanely bullish. And Anthony Pompliano went on CNBC and explained to Squawk Box the, well, supply shock in effect, what this means, what it means for Bitcoin's price. We're going to react to that, and we're going to get a little look at the top bullish news from today. We get a lot to cover. Let's get it. Okay, so we know everyone's excited. Bitcoin skyrocketed to 50K today, busting through a couple resistance levels. This is basically one of the last thresholds before we could start heading to all-time highs. Of course, there's going to be some retests and volatility in there, but let's check this out. Prepare to get super bullish. Wall Street loves Bitcoin.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. The price of Bitcoin crossing back over the $48,000 level over the weekend, 1 month this after the launch of the spot Bitcoin ETF. This morning, trading slightly lower. Joining us right now is Anthony Pompliano, founder of Pomp Investments. Good morning to you.
Morning.
This has been a bit of a wild ride because we talked about sort of selling the news or selling the rumor, buying the rumor, selling the news. But now we've come back to buying.
Yeah. I mean, look, the verdict's in, right? Wall Street doesn't just like Bitcoin. They love Bitcoin. If you think of these assets, there's been over 5,500 ETF launches in history. Never have we had a fund get to $3 billion in AUM in the first.
Okay, let's get in there because he's talking about the historical numbers it's putting in. So he's saying Wall Street loves Bitcoin. We see a lot of ads, see a lot of things like that. It's not about the words and the backing. We've heard that. Kathy Wood, Jurian Timmer, Larry Fink. I mean, everybody. But look at their actions. Look at how aggressively they are accumulating Bitcoin right now. What are they looking to purchase? Where is it flooding into? Why is it setting records? Why is there so much demand? And then when it comes into Bitcoin, you got all this demand, finite supply that is going to be cut in half soon. Now, let's get back to it.
30 days. BlackRock and Fidelity both just did it. So two for the first time in history. And then if you look at Bitwise and 21 Shares, ARK, they're both going to hit $1 billion this year or this week. And so now you have four funds that are going to hit $1 billion of inflows. But the most interesting part of this is the inflows. These funds are doing $500 million a day of net inflows. But there's only 900 Bitcoin that is actually coming into the daily incoming supply. And so when you look at that, that's like $40 to $45 million. There's 12.5x more demand for Bitcoin than what's being produced on a daily basis.
So how much of this do you think is being generated by the ETFs themselves?
Well, I mean, you just measure the actual net inflows, right? And so you can just see there is way more buying pressure.
So you're saying $3 billion for BlackRock.
There's $4 billion now for BlackRock, 3.5 for Fidelity. And then you've got Bitwise and 21 Shares will both hit about $1 billion this upcoming week.
And those are the numbers in the first month alone of the ETF launch. Are they going to stop buying? Is the demand just going to dry up out of nowhere? And also, when this demand meets the supply, what happens to the price? We've been talking about this a long time. A lot of things are building up here. This is that perfect storm. Having been here and coming out of this before and seeing everything, how it's set up, the dynamics at play here. Last time we were at 47, 48, 50K, there was just total FOMO. Now it's like this just stable. It just feels like a normal thing, 48, 50K Bitcoin. It's a little bullish, but you don't really feel that much, right? What I'm trying to get at is the dynamics at play. We're very early in the bullish cycle at 50K when we were nearing this euphoric state in the last cycle. So just to put that in play with the numbers and the numbers coming in with the ETFs, billions, all right? Billions are flowing into the ETFs. And we're 69 days from the halving.
Total valuation, though, of Bitcoin, if we,
$1 trillion.
The market cap is $1 trillion. So isn't this a de minimis issue or no?
Where it gets really interesting.
Most of these things aren't trading.
80% of all Bitcoin in circulation has not moved in the last 6 months. You have only about $200 billion is actually tradable. And so that means that these ETFs sucked up 5% of the entire tradable supply of Bitcoin in 30 days. I mean, Bitcoin has become Wall Street's favorite asset.
What were you going to say, Joe? I can tell you.
I'm not going to say.
And that big pause right there was a good, like, shit, I don't know if I can deny that statement because the numbers are so staggering. And let's follow up here. A couple minutes left in this conversation, and then we'll move on.
5% doesn't sound like a lot. Here's what I'm
30 days?
It used to take a lot for someone to invest in Bitcoin.
Yes.
It's real easy right now. And I don't know, are we going to 90,000 and A year? That'd be too weird. People don't double their money by buying an ETF in a year. So I think it might be a currency that you can use because it's going to stay at 47,000.
Well, look, the world is changing for sure. I mean, last year, the NASDAQ was up 50%, right? And so there's definitely these big moves that happen in the traditional markets. Bitcoin, obviously, is that on steroids. But the other thing that's now starting to happen, Fidelity just came out, and they've got a fund. It's an all-in-one fund out in Canada. And they're going to put 1 to 3% of that fund into the Bitcoin ETF. And so what you're going to start seeing is not just direct inflows into the Bitcoin ETFs. You're going to start seeing them putting Bitcoin into all of their funds because it, from a risk-reward standpoint, drastically improves the performance of these portfolios. And they're going to start to realize if I'm lagging indicators, if I'm lagging performance, if I put a little bit of Bitcoin, 1 to 3% into this portfolio, it's going to enhance my returns.
Bitcoin, I think it might be good if it stayed at 47,000 for a year, because then people wouldn't worry about buying them.
Okay, maybe on Squawk, he's becoming more of a maxi. You know, he wants it to hover around because he wants to accumulate. That's what most Bitcoiners want. That's why there's bittersweetness to this point in the cycles, and there's bittersweetness to the fact that the institutions are here because they have so much more. Well, their access to the money printer is very easy, so they can implement that MicroStrategy strategy and really buy up that Bitcoin. All of it in a hurry. If they really were to dive in, or when this FOMO hits, we could be hitting that in this cycle. There's so many things at play here. We're in that pre-halving hype phase here, and it's only the early inning. Joe Squawk's over here trying to start a 47K gang.
Pizza that's worth a Mercedes 2 years from now.
The joke in the Bitcoin community is the real Bitcoiners want the price to stay low so they can accumulate more of it, right? But obviously, when you have this much demand, the price got to go
a year from now, it's where? It's
much higher. I think that if this continues, if we have 12 and a half times more demand than we do incoming daily supply, and remember the halving is coming, so we're gonna go from 900 Bitcoin to 450 Bitcoin a day. I mean, this thing's going back to its all-time high. It's pretty much guaranteed at this point.
What's that other thing called, Becky, whenever we talk about the halving?
So does that mean,
you know, where we all go up to heaven and something?
Oh,
and
if they maintain?
Someone's left behind.
The rapture?
So if they maintain after the halving, is that 25x more Bitcoin? If they maintain, of course. There could also be a major shakeout, as we know historically when the Fed cuts rates, boo, a little downturn, so the big boys can scoop up their assets on the cheap. So you got to be ready for that and have that dry powder ready. And that is par for the course on the way, you know, up and to the right forever.
Rapture. The halving is like the rapture to you really hardcore.
Let me ask you this. You're a bull, you're an owner. What's the thing you worry about? About being wrong about?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is it's not so much right or wrong as much as it is like the return of this asset is going to get larger, and as the holder base changes. One of the things that hasn't happened in the Bitcoin community previously is things like rebalancing. And so when you all of a sudden give financial advisors an asset, and let's say you have a 1% allocation and it goes to 5%, you're going to sell. You're going to rebalance that portfolio. And so when the holder base is changing, you have to understand that the return profile will come down. And so if you think that you're going to buy Bitcoin and it's going to, help you retire, those days probably are behind. But what it will do is outperform stock.
But then you're not in the camp of the Kathy Woods $500,000 million base case Bitcoin valuation issue. Because by the way, if that's true, then you can retire.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, it depends on the timeline, right? So if you're saying it's going to go from 50,000 to 500,000, which is 10x, and that's going to happen over the next 10 years.
Yeah, I think she thinks that that's what's going to happen.
That's not that crazy, right? I mean, again, NASDAQ was up 50% last year. I'm not saying NASDAQ's going to go up 50% every year, but we live in a world where it has completely lost all ties to reality because we are printing an enormous amount of money. The interest payment on the debt is $1 trillion. Right? It was a video game number. And so in that world, how much are these assets worth when the denominator is just being debased away? They're going to be worth a lot more. You can just start putting zeros on the end of the values of these assets.
Anthony Pompliano. Thank you, sir.
And not just that, you can start putting zeros on the end of your groceries, right? We learned a little bit from Biden in the Super Bowl on inflation or shrinkflation or whatever the hell he was talking about. But this is majorly bullish, guys. And Pompliano, maybe he's a believer in diminishing returns. I don't parlay with that necessarily. Now, bigger numbers bring bigger numbers. I think this is something Samson Mao, me, and some others are thinking of here. Okay, as Bitcoin rose, it became more prominent, so some other figures saw it. It was given more quote-unquote credibility to the eyes of the masses, and this leads newer investors with bigger sums of money to allocate to Bitcoin. This is the stair step, okay? And this is how we got into hedge funds, and now the Blackrocks allocating billions, 500 million a day to Bitcoin. This is major. And then we have major institutions like Fidelity in Canada just straight up allocating 1 to 3% there. This is going to become the new normal, but this is totally different from anything we've seen in the fact that it is absolute scarcity we're talking about. Look at this. Bitcoin is at 50K. We barely feel anything. It is the 10th largest asset in the world by market cap, just passing that cuck Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan and the rats at Berkshire, Tesla, and the Skynet vehicles and Visa and the future CBDC models. So all of these things are just being eradicated by the future store of value. Everything goes to zero against Bitcoin over time or gets rebalanced because, well, the base layer language of value becomes stable and sound and understandable and immutable and verifiable. And that's going to lead to just astounding things. But the next step, right? We got the hedge funds, we got the Blackrocks and those things, nation states allocating and things of that nature. That is what, again, bigger numbers will bring bigger numbers. And it is looking like just today, big day for the ETFs. IBIT greater than 500 million volume by noon. There are 3,120 ETFs in the US and IBIT is number 12 already. Like we said, we haven't seen FOMO at all yet. Bernstein analyst says prepare for a Bitcoin FOMO rally to record highs, and 50K, 69K is right there. We're not that far away. It is a good feeling. It is a good feeling. Make sure you're stacking, dollar cost averaging, and taking advantage of every dip on this way to Valhalla. I wonder how the El Salvador haters are feeling right now. Bitcoin pumping and just vilifying and verifying everything they've been implementing down there. The numbers don't lie, right? And let's check this out from Mitchell Hodl. I like this. Last time Bitcoin was at 50K, greater than 50% of supply was held by lettuce hands. We had scammers left and right, GBTC premium buyers getting wrecked, precipice of the fastest rate hike in history. Bitcoin at 50K today, 70% of supply held by diamond hands. Wall Street is in love with Bitcoin. It's its favorite asset. 9 weeks away from the halving, 69 days. Rate cuts coming later this year. No Super Bowl ads, except Jack Dorsey repping Satoshi. That was awesome. But the fluff is gone. Now we ride. And then we also have, on another note, Bitcoin emission intensity is the lowest of any industry on the planet. So we've said it before, the ESG FUD is dead. The institutions are here. Batten down the hatches. Make sure you got self-custody of your coin. It's going to get spicy. And look, you could always take the alternative, getting Jerome Powell and inflation to absolutely wreck you. And you don't want that. You can protect yourself from that. That is what Bitcoin is here for. Don't take my word for it. Take Larry Fink and Blackrock, who says Bitcoin is creating a global internet of value that allows assets to move at a lower cost in near real-time access across borders. It's international. It's immutable. It's going to transcend currency. The guy looks at it like digital gold. And the truth of the matter is you got to get on the train, especially those in our camp, because fiat boomers own about 70 to 80% of the stock market. So whenever they decide to let things go, that's not going to be good. You don't want to get into things that these boomers can punish you with. What about things that they can't punish you with? Maybe like Bitcoin, because millennials, we're not going to be able to afford retirement in the future without Bitcoin. Get on the train now before it's too late. This is the arc. Don't wait until the flood hits. Hey, looking to take charge of your financial future, just getting started in Bitcoin, or want to get your Bitcoin off of exchanges and learn how to take self-custody? We got just the guys to get you covered. Simply Bitcoin Originals are powered by the Bitcoin Way, here to help you take charge of your financial future. And the Bitcoin Way, basically your IT team in the Bitcoin world, whether you need help with wallet nodes, inheritance planning, accepting Bitcoin payments, or just following basic best practices, they can get you covered. And if you're looking to get started, you can book a free 30-minute call using that link below. Yo guys, a lot of major bullish news. We hit 50K. This is just, you know, the beginning of a lot of things. Make sure you're taking care of your corn. If you didn't catch some of the latest, catch those. Be sure to like, subscribe, share that Sound Money Gospel. Set those notifications. Keep tuning in to Simply Bitcoin, your #1 stop for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution. I'll catch you all tomorrow.
If you prefer to go down with the ship, fuck you.